Hi there, folks. I'm Mark Coleman from the Virginia Varsity Sports Network, V2SN, and this is Varsity 360, a look at the week's top stories in Fredericksburg area high school athletics. So happy that you found us here at Fredericksburg.com. A very packed show that we've got for you here this week, the week of January 27th, 2014. Certainly expecting a light schedule this past week due to midterm exams for many of the area high schools. Weather certainly had a factor in that, and certainly all of the school activities for that matter. A number of games and matches played over this past weekend, however, and that gives us plenty to talk about. And here to do that with me, I have one of my very favorites from the Freelance Star. We have sports reporter extraordinaire, Taft Coghill Jr. Taft, good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Mark.
Well, we've got some late breaking news actually in the recruiting front. So why don't we jump right into that? It's always particularly with the advent of National Signing Day coming on in February 5th. We've got a little over a week to go before that. But it looks like we've got some pretty standout players from the area who have indicated what their preferences are. Daniel Azhagu, I guess, with some news from today, actually.
Yeah, the Freelance Star Player of the Year orally committed to Maryland today as we speak on Monday, and that was quite a shocker to a lot of people, including Bill Brown himself. He thought that he would take all of his official visits. He took one to Virginia on January 17th, took one to Maryland this past weekend, was set to take one to James Madison with his brother, but he was wowed by Maryland's facilities and their collection of uniforms. They had about 15 different fancy uniforms that they showed him, and they had a packed house for the Pittsburgh Maryland basketball game at the Comcast Center, and all that stuff just wowed him, and he went ahead and made a decision on Sunday.
How about that? Azhagu, of course, a standout player from Colonial Forge, and I saw one of your tweets that said that he was a little bit more enamored with the city life that Maryland offered compared to Charlottesville and UVA. Is that?
Yeah, that's what he said, but I don't know if that was necessarily a dig at UVA. I think it was mostly what he enjoyed about Maryland and speaking about some of the surrounding areas, not being too far from D.C. and that type of stuff. So,
what position are they looking at him for the Terrapins?
They're looking at him at defensive back. They think he can come in and be the same type of cornerback that former Stafford High School cornerback Dexter McDougal was for them. McDougal just got invited to the NFL Combine. He was injured last year, pretty early on in the season, but they see Azhagu. He's a lot bigger than McDougal, but they see them playing that same type of role.
Excellent. Now, his brother David does have a visit coming up to JMU, though, correct?
Yes, he has a visit coming up to JMU. Daniel would like to tag along. I don't know if it's just for the ride or what, but Maryland coaches advised him not to do that. He wants to do it, but Maryland coaches told him that would be like asking your wife, can you go on a date? So, they weren't for that.
Virginia Tech has secured a preferred walk-on, I guess, another standout from the area.
Yeah, another standout, one of my favorite players to watch this past year, Joey Sly. They've got him as a walk-on kicker there. They think he can come in and compete for the kickoff specialist duties right away, and then perhaps work his way onto as the full-time field goal kicker.
What a kid, what a young man now, I guess. Certainly has so many different skills at so many different positions. At the high school level, you never could get him off the field. He played offense, defense, special teams, and did it all very well. Yeah,
and apparently Bud Foster has been really impressed by that. If he was a little bigger or stronger, faster, had some of those measurables that perhaps Azhagu has, then he would have been a Division I linebacker as well. But he said that I don't know if he said it half jokingly or what, but he said he would like to bulk up and get faster and perhaps ask Foster, can he go help out on the defensive side of the ball? So,
well, maybe he can make his mark with some special teams tackles, although he's got a pretty booming leg. You want to send those into the end zone and not have some returns, but it's good to have 11 folks covering the kickoffs there.
Exactly.
So Joey Sly, preferred walk-on at Virginia Tech, and then finally Jawan Horton with some surprise. He decided to go against the grain a little bit.
Yeah, you don't typically see kids commit to FCS schools over FBS programs, but Horton did that. He said he liked the family atmosphere up in New Hampshire. He thought it was more of a family atmosphere than what he saw when he went to a visit on Toledo, who had offered him a scholarship. So he made that decision, and kudos to him for for choosing that. And also it kind of follows in the footsteps of Brandon Ravenel, who last year chose JMU over offers from West Virginia and Purdue and some big schools like that. He was also a North Stafford player, so I don't know if it's something that Coach Mangano is preaching there, but they seem comfortable making the best decisions for them.
Well, congratulations to all those young men, Sly and Horton, both from North Stafford, and Azhagu from Colonial Forge. And we will try to keep you up to date and up to speed on all of the recruiting news. Again, February 5th, National Signing Day, and you can keep with us here at Fredericksburg.com, FLSVarsity.com, and certainly with the great tweeting from @FLSVarsity, and we'll cover it on Varsity 360 as well. Let's move on now to girls basketball, and we will take a look at the Varsity 360 top 5. Starting with number 5, making a return visit to our top 5, we have Caroline.
Yes, and Stafford dropped out of the top 5, but it wasn't a knock against them at all. And their loss to Colonial Forge, it was more a nod to Caroline and kind of putting the pieces back together. They've suffered some injuries and whatnot, but they went out to, at Cortland on Saturday afternoon and picked up a big victory there, 60-52.
Right. Take them to 11-4, so a strong team there.
Yeah, strong team, really strong front court. They have Bo Hayes and Hope Tolliver, and also Jayla McNeil. And Tolliver, she had 27 against Cortland, and their young guard Jasmine Moore came through with 17 points. So pretty strong all around team. If they can get a little bit more depth, then they'll definitely be one to reckon with.
Excellent. At number 4, we have Massaponax. The Panthers go to 12-5 after a 48-36 victory over North Stafford. Some good offensive performances there from some of the Massaponax girls.
Yeah, they're a young but growing team. I mean, you have some standouts there. Victoria Washington's a standout. You had Alexis Willis have 14 points and 5 steals in that win over North Stafford, and you had Kayla Bowler getting 9 rebounds. So they haven't truly been battle tested, I wouldn't say, but they're definitely a team that's kind of on the rise right now.
Excellent. Talk about a team on the rise, although they really haven't been able to nudge out the top 2, but Colonial Beach continues to impress. 12-1. Didn't play this past week, but that's a strong team right there, and an exciting style of play.
Yeah, exciting style of play. They're a scrappy team, and they've been able to pick up a couple of wins over 5A teams, which is always nice to have. I wouldn't be surprised with them being a 1A team that they could possibly make the strongest run among area teams this year.
Yeah, great. At number 2, we have Chancellor. They are at 12-3, a victory this past week over Eastern View, 67-57.
Yeah, they just keep on rolling. I mean, they pretty much have everything you would want in a girls basketball team for this area at least. I mean, strong point guard play, strong shooting guard and Jayla Harris, and strong inside play from Sydney Jackson. I mean, she's not the tallest girl, but she's able to get in there and battle and do some really good things.
Score the basket, yeah. Both Harris and Jackson with 21 points each. In that victory over Eastern View. Some impressive performances there. Yeah,
and they also have Emily Green, who's a really outstanding shooter, so they pretty much have all their bases covered.
Yeah. And number 1 in the Varsity 360 girls top 5, we have Colonial Forge. A big victory this past weekend over Stafford, 70-43. They just continue to pour it on.
Yeah, it seems real odd to say a 70-43 game was a lot closer than the score indicates, but apparently this was a 2-point game with 7 minutes remaining, and Stafford had a series of turnovers that allowed Colonial Forge to stretch their lead out, but pretty good game for about 25 minutes there.
Yeah. Kenya Holland scores her 1,000th career point. That's always an exciting milestone to recognize, so congratulations to Kenya on that. And then also we have our Varsity 360 Athlete of the Week from this game. Jayla Osborne, 34 points and 13 rebounds. That's a pretty impressive stat line.
Yeah, I think she might have been a bit angry about her performance against Maury, and she looks like she took it out on Stafford a little bit. She was 2 for 11 in that loss to Maury a couple weeks ago, and she came back in this game. She scored 15 of the first 19 points, and she was her usual self on the glass, and ended up with a career high 34 points.
Bounced back with a vengeance. So congratulations to Jayla. Once again, Jayla Osborne from Colonial Forge, the Varsity 360 Athlete of the Week. Let's take a look now at the top 5 for boys for Varsity 360. We'll start at number 5. Mountain View comes in, now up to 9-7 following a 59-45 victory over Brook Point. 4 players in double digits this game for Mountain View.
Yeah, that had to be quite pleasing for Coach Kevin Brown to see. His son, Lucas Brown, the outstanding point guard, has been carrying the team pretty much on his back all year, and to get 3 other guys in double figures along with Lucas has to be something Brown, thinks could help them going forward.
Certainly. Lucas Brown with 17 points, E.J. Fisher with 14, Elijah Burris with 11, and Darren Robinson with 10. So impressive offensive performance there and good distribution of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Shows that they've got a number of kids that can score the basket there. So Mountain View comes in at number 5. At number 4 in the Varsity 360 top 5 for boys basketball, we have Spotsylvania. Did not play this past week, but an impressive team, 9-3 on the season.
Yes, 9-3, and they have a really big game coming up with Culpeper pretty soon, where that could decide that Conference 27 race. Spotsylvania's a team with 6 of their top 7 players from last year returning, but the one thing that could trip them up is a lack of depth. They don't have, they can't go to that 7th or 8th man for some minutes if they get in foul trouble. So that's one concern for Coach Lynn Carlson.
Games coming up this week, I believe, against Caroline and Monroe. So they will get back into the meat of their schedule there.
That's right.
At number 3, we have Chancellor. Chancellor coming in at 11-2 on the season, a 90-87 victory over Eastern View. They really pulled this one out. They were trailing with 2 minutes left in this game, I believe, and they were able to turn up the defense and pull out that victory.
Yeah, that's a pretty impressive thing that they were able to make that comeback, because that would have been an unpleasant loss for Chancellor, to say the least, if they got tripped up by Eastern View. So pretty big win there for Chancellor.
Trailing by 9 points, I think it was, with 2 minutes left. So that was a pretty impressive turnaround to end up winning that game. Matt King with 23 points and Jawan Graves with 19 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists. So Chancellor coming in at number 3 this week for the Varsity 360 boys top 5. At number 2, we have Culpeper. They've got a victory this past week over Eastern View. Pretty big one, 85-43.
Yeah, that's their second straight 40-plus point win. I mean, you look at a team like Culpeper with all that depth, 3-point shooters. They have rebound, and apparently their defense has kicked it up a notch, because they haven't been a program known for stifling defense in years past, but holding Eastern View to 43. You see that they could score. They put up 87 on Chancellor, and also holding JM under 40 points a week prior to that. So Culpeper's really showing a lot of strides on offense and defense.
11-2 on the season. How do you think this team is going to be able to fare against the elite of the state? Are they ready to compete that level?
That remains to be seen. I mean, they shouldn't have much problems getting out of Conference 27, and then when you get into your region, your 3A East region, you have all of those former Group AAA powerhouses from the Richmond area. You look at Petersburg and John Marshall and Thomas Jefferson, and these aren't your run-of-the-mill teams. I mean, they're 3A now, but they could easily compete with the 5A, 6A type teams.
Yeah. So the challenge is certainly going to be there, but you kind of expect that. If you're going to win a state championship or go deep into that tournament, you're going to meet some good teams.
Yeah, last year they got knocked out pretty early because of struggles on defense. They picked that up, but yeah.
Excellent. Well, not a whole lot of surprise here. Number 1 in the Varsity 360 boys top 5, we have Colonial Forge. Forge with a victory this past week over Stafford, their 11th win in a row. They're now up to 13-1. And just another good performance. This is a solid team.
Yeah, very solid team. It's getting to the point now where I wouldn't be surprised if they were able to advance as far as the girls program this year, because they've shown that they have the depth and they have the talent to get a lot of things done.
Well, that's saying something, because I believe that a couple of weeks ago you told me that the Colonial Forge girls may be the best girls basketball team this area has ever seen.
Yeah, they still could be that and get knocked out early in the 6A South playoffs when you have a team like Cosby waiting in the wings. But Colonial Forge boys, they're very athletic. They have some of those football guys like Damon Daniel and Gary Jennings, very big, muscular, athletic guys.
Right.
And you had a guy like Marco Haskins in there to round that out, and that's pretty tough to deal with. Haskins
with 18 points against Stafford this past weekend. Winston Burgess with 11 points and 11 rebounds, and Jennings with 13 points. So another well-distributed, just a solid team, and good depth.
Yes.
They're not dependent on a single player.
Yeah, not dependent on a single player. Marco Haskins is their best guy. He went down with an injury late in that win over Stafford, but I don't believe it's too serious, but that remains to be seen as well.
Well, that's the boys' top 5 for Varsity 360, and appreciate your time, Taft. Now, before you go, we've got Super Bowl predictions to make. Who's going to win?
I like Seattle in a close one. I'm going 27-23 Seahawks.
Okay. Well, I'll give my own prediction here in a little bit.
Okay.
Fair enough.
All right.
Thanks, Taft.
Thank you.
Well, let's look now at some other sports around the area. And joining me now, I have the assistant sports editor for the Freelance Star, Mr. Justin Rice. Justin, good to see you again, buddy.
Good to see you, Mark.
Some big meets this past weekend, including in wrestling. There was the Marine Corps Ultimate Challenge meet. Pretty exciting time and a big matchup between some strong teams.
Yeah, and not only were the out-of-area teams in for this meet really strong, also you had Mountain View and Colonial Forge. You know, as Commonwealth District teams, they were going to see each other in the postseason. As Conference 4 and Conference 15 teams, that wasn't the case this year. So to see them wrestle sort of on a big showcase and go head-to-head in a lot of weights was really fun. Colonial Forge wins the team title over Mountain View. And this is a case where Colonial Forge's depth sort of plays out. They have two champions, Jeff Stone at 138 pounds and Patrick Grayson at 220. But Mountain View's sort of top tier comes through. Mountain View had three champions, and it was all coming in head-to-head matches against Colonial Forge wrestlers. First, Jared Swan at 170 beats Anthony Carter from Colonial Forge 4-1. I was told this match was 0-0 about midway through.
Wow.
So that's a well-wrestled match. And then at 152, Russell Ramsey from Mountain View beats Dylan Hunsinger from Colonial Forge in that first-place match. It was 4-1. And then I think in a match that if you're following wrestling closely, you really want to see, Josue Beltran Jr., Junior Beltran from Mountain View wrestles Josh Nail from Colonial Forge at 120 pounds, and Junior Beltran comes out with a 4-2 win. Again, I'm told that's a really tight match that maybe could have gone either way. But I'll say this, to toot our own horn, if you look at the Freelance Stars wrestling rankings,
How did you do?
we did really well. All our rankings sort of held out to that. You know, the guys who we thought might be better, they came out on top this weekend. Ultimate Challenge is a great test for those teams. One note from that was Robinson, maybe a team that you talk about for Group 6A state championship contenders, turned out to not bring their full team. Would have been a really nice meet to see had you seen some of the exceptional Robinson kids, Jack Bass, the Dave Pasquale kids, see those kids wrestle against the Colonial Forge and the Mountain View kids. It would have made it a really top-notch weekend meet, but still good nonetheless.
Yeah. Junior Beltran named the most outstanding wrestler for the meet. That 120-pound division is something else there.
Yeah, it's going to be real fun when we get into the state tournaments. I think Nail and Junior Beltran and Yerhosky Aldiva from Eastern View, I think all three of those kids are going to have real nice postseasons.
So the Freelance Star publishes the wrestling rankings every Wednesday. Any surprises that we can expect this week?
I'll throw you one little tidbit from at 170 pounds. Jacob Tucker from King George was wrestling 182 early in the season, moved down to 170. He's 41-1. I'll bet you see Jacob Tucker's in our top three this week. Yeah.
Somehow I think you're probably right about that. A big week coming up in swimming. We've got some postseason meets coming up.
Yeah, and it's actually the first big test of the new format. Whereas this week we'd be going to Battlefield and Commonwealth District action at the end of the season. Now we're going into our conference meets. So you have 3 days of 3 conference meets. We're going to start off Thursday up at Mary Washington for Conference 15. That's North Stafford, Mountain View, Brook Point, and Massaponax wrestling against some Prince William schools.
Swimming
against it.
Maybe
They may
wrestling
wrestle.
too,
I don't know.
that's
6 o'clock at Mary Wash. And again, at Conference 15, you know, these new conferences, you're not sure. You know, we don't see a lot of these out of area, these Prince William schools. So who's going to do really well team wise? I'm not sure. I can tell you individuals. Here's 2 names for you: Cameron Brackman from North Stafford, Caroline Weiner from Brook Point. Those are 2 fine individuals at Conference 15.
Okay, excellent.
Then we go to Conference 4. We go to the Freedom Center Manassas for Conference 4 on Friday. Colonial Forge, Riverbend, Stafford, again mixed in with some Prince William schools. And again, it's the same story where we're not sure we're going to see how these Prince William schools are, but we know some individuals you can certainly look for. On the boys' side, I like Alec Morgan from Colonial Forge. On the girls' side, I like Cameron Curry, a young swimmer. She's got, if you look at our top times, Cameron Curry has put up some real good numbers this year. And from Riverbend, Reagan Horn, I think is probably primed for a good meet if she's on her game. Forge and Riverbend girls, I think have 2 nice teams and should be really competitive in Conference 4. And then Saturday, Mark, we're not done. There's more. Saturday, we go Conference 22 at the Warrenton Aquatic Recreation Facility. That starts at 4:15 in the afternoon. Now you're talking about Cortland, King George, Chancellor, and Eastern View mixed in with some Fauquier County schools, Fauquier and Liberty. here I think we have a decent idea, at least on the boys' side. King George has been one of the area's best, most deep teams for a long time. I think King George is a real good shot to make some noise, especially on the boys' side. Ricardo Bonilla Vasquez, again, if you look at our top times, Ricardo's a kid that's put up real nice times this year, and hopefully he'll be ready to do it come Saturday.
Yeah, great. And then there's also Conference 27, which does not have a meet at the conference level.
Yeah, they skip right to the 3A East. Probably the number of teams in the conference and in the 3A East that compete in swimming, not a big number. So they go right from the end of the regular season. They'll jump in next week to the 3A East meet.
So certainly a big weekend coming up in the swimming scene. So lots of great meets. If you're out and about and want to catch some wonderful swimming in the area, check out the Freelance Star for those times. And we'll be back next week to bring you the results of that as well. But it sounds like there's going to be some exciting swimming. We'll talk about some exciting times from this past season. The VHSL announced their all-state team for field hockey, and the local Fredericksburg area was very well represented. Let's take a look at those teams now. In Group 6A, we've got a couple of folks, Stafford and Colonial Forge, for representation.
Yeah, Natalie Bomke was not this past season, but the previous season. She was the Freelance Stars Player of the Year, going to VCU, exceptional defensive player, really led Stafford into the state tournament, and just had a great high school career. Look for big things for her college. Not surprised to see her on the first team. And then Kate Roberts from Colonial Forge. She was an all-area pick for us this year as a midfielder. Probably their team MVP, was a real consistent performer for them, and so it's good to see her on there as well.
Taking a look at the 5A and Mountain View, no surprise here, very well represented. Mountain View getting their first state championship in school history, and they sent a lot of girls to that all-state team. Yeah,
the Mountain View was the class of the new Group 5A field hockey this year. Really unchallenged until the state championship game, and even that they sort of won with tenuous control. But then you see this list of first-team girls, and it's you're not as surprised if you're following the field hockey. Olivia Hubert is an all-area player. Bailey McCarthy's an all-area player. Beth Barnes is certainly all-area potential. I believe she was on her second team this year. Emily Johnson, is a good young and uppercomer player. Gretchen Geisler is a scorer. She's an all-area player. Morgan Lowry is a second-team all-area player. This is a good team, and if you look closely at this team, Geisler's a junior, Hubert's a junior, Beth Barnes is a junior, Emily Johnson is a junior. Look for Mountain View in the 5A field hockey next year as well.
A little sneak preview of what next year is going to look like in 5A. Let's take a look at the 4A now, and Chancellor with their second consecutive state championship, and no surprise, they've got some good representation here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well. James Monroe as well is a state semifinalist, and they get two girls. Hannah Fisher is a girl that has had a great career at JM, and she'll move on to do big things, and is a solid player. Miranda Rigg from JM is a ice hockey. She has an ice hockey background and has really just started playing field hockey full time. But when you watch her and her athleticism on the field, it's no surprise to me that she's on there. And then of course Chancellor, two-time state champions. It's such a great field hockey program. It's hard to say that this hasn't been the best 2 years in the program's entire history. Catherine Hull is the Freelance Stars Player of the Year. Then you've got Chloe Fernandez and Chelsea Galera, they're two scorers up top, and Kinsey Nealon and Jordan Razier, two defenders in the back. Razier noted as a sophomore.
Right.
Chancellor's losing a lot. Jordan will be one girl that they certainly look to build around next year.
Sure. Well, congratulations to all those girls for being named to the VHSL All-State Field Hockey Team. Well, Justin, big week this week in sports, certainly in area sports, but in national sports as well. The Super Bowl. Want to make any predictions?
My heart says Peyton Manning. I think there's a lot of statistics out there that make you want to look at the defense of Seattle. So I think sort of I'll be passively cheering for Denver and see if the Broncos can get it done with an eye and some respect towards Seattle's defense.
I'm actually expecting that it's going to be a little bit more one-sided than a lot of others are expecting. I think Denver's going to be able to pull it out, and so I'm predicting a 2-touchdown victory by the Broncos. So there you have it.
Well, I'll go out on a limb. Broncos, but certainly closer than 2 touchdowns.
Oh, that's a very thick limb right there. What a guy. This past Friday night, the students and fans at Colonial Forge got to be part of a special night. Yes, both of their top-ranked basketball teams posted impressive victories, and yes, their vaunted green wall showed up in force, but there was more to this night than hoops. The doubleheader event was called Ballin' for Brett. Brett Bryant was a 2012 Forge graduate who passed away on January 9th after a valiant battle against brain cancer. Brett was an inspiration to all who knew him. He was intelligent, hardworking, and kind. On that night, in his honor, the Green Wall wore gray ribbons for brain cancer awareness and collected donations that will be sent to the American Brain Tumor Association and the Ronald McDonald House. These two charities are very important to the Bryant family. $250 for each charity was collected and will be presented in memory of Brett. Brett was not a star athlete. He never had the opportunity to participate in high school athletics. In fact, he was looking at the Forge cross-country practice schedule when he suffered his first seizure in August of 2008. He had brain surgery later that month, followed by radiation and chemotherapy treatment. His two older sisters, Laura and Melanie, ran track and cross-country for Colonial Forge, and Melanie was a standout gymnast. No doubt, Brett understood the bond of a team, the trust and dedication required, and the rewards that come from persistence. Brett finished his freshman year at Mary Washington despite knowing his inoperable brain tumor was again growing. He pushed on despite huge declines in his memory and his ability to learn new information. His determination was infectious, and it was a big part of why one of his teachers, Mrs. Brittany Fulmer, was motivated to coordinate the Ballin' for Brett night. A chance for a school and a community to come together to celebrate the life of a young man taken far too soon. A chance for sports to play the cathartic role by bringing individuals together and making them a collective. A group of fans showing their love for some of their own. The essence and beauty of athletic competition, and both a wonderful and tragic lesson for all of us to learn. I'd like to thank Mrs. Fulmer and Carol Bryant, Brett's mom, for the photos and information they've provided. Well, that's going to do it for this week's installment of Varsity 360. Certainly appreciate the time from Taft Coghill Jr. and Justin Rice, two of the very great folks from the FLS Varsity team. Of course, FLS Varsity, part of the undertaking by the Freelance Star, focusing on area high school sports. To keep up with all of the latest in the high school sports scene around the area, you should be doing a couple of things. Every day, you should be logging on to flsvarsity.com. You should be following them on Twitter. They are at FLSVarsity. And certainly hope that every week you're catching Varsity 360 on Fredericksburg.com as well as FLSVarsity.com.